So let's do coding and create the HTML file. Please note that you can use any HTML editors to do your HTML coding if you have one. For this demo, I use the Notepad program because it can be found in any computer in order to show that HTML code is merely a text file. And this is to show anyone who does not have any previous experience with coding that you can also create a HTML page from the Notepad. We're going to use Notepad as our HTML editor. So let's bring up Notepad by going to the search text box below and hit enter. Let's create the HTML file and name it as test1.html. At this point, the file name can be test1.html or .htm. Either way is fine. But make sure you need to change the save as type into all, so it will take the file extension instead of doing something like this. This won't work because it will be like a text file instead of HTML file. And hit save. So the purpose of the HTML codes is for the browser to tell which portion of document is the content and which portion is the instruction. For example, if we type something like this, the browser understands that you are defining a HTML file and its content will be located in between the tags, where the HTML is the open tag. This is the open tag and this is a close tag. So we will put content in between this open and close tag. This is why I said that HTML is like a big container and it provides the structure to house other contents and smaller structures. For example, in every HTML file, we have these tags. So we have a header section and a body section. And also there's a title. So in between header, there is a title. And this title element will be controlling the title on the browser. For example, if I type this is a title, you can see the title is already being updated. Please note that since there are many versions for HTML, the browser needs to know what version this document is when it loads, so that it knows how to interpret the content. It uses document type declaration, which resides outside of the HTML tags, and technically the document type is not a tag or element but a declaration, so it will be the first line of the HTML file. Okay, let's start to our assignment. So what's our assignment? We need to create a UI for the service ticket entry form. It looks something like this, with the title on the form and instruction to the user, and there are text boxes and a list box and a proper description, and finally we have a submit button to submit the form. Let's create another file, save as, and let's change our title into something meaningful like service ticket entry form. And let's start with the the page title and the instructions. So we will create the content inside the body element. Here there's a div tag. The div tag is used to define an area or section. So it is used like a container to house other elements. It is called div because it's an abbreviation of division. So as you can see that we have a div open tag and div close tag, and we have a header which we use the element h1, and we have a paragraph which we use a p element. So we have talked about the element, which is all these items like head, body, div, p. Those are called elements. And if we need more information attached to the element, we use attribute. In our case, the h1 header has additional information, and this is called the attribute. Attribute is a key value pair, which means that there's an attribute name, ID. In this case, the ID is p title. So right now I want to construct this bottom portion, which is the box for the form. So we will be using the form element, and we're going to place inside the dev section. Here you see that the form has an ID of my form, and it has an attribute called action, and this is the action that's going to play the role when you press the submit button, where it goes. And since this is just a demo, we're going to just put a pound sign as a placeholder. So now I place the field set and the legend so that we can build the section of the border and also the title of the form, which we use the legend element. So at this point, I'm adding the section for displaying the first name and the text box, and this is the section. If you notice that I have a class attribute, this is going to be used by the CSS file or the style sheet. We're going to show you how to do it in the next module. The BR tag is just to position the text box into the next line instead of position to the right. Now let's check with the browser and see how it looks. We noticed something went wrong because the section of the first name with the text box should be appear inside the customer information. It should be in the box instead of outside of the border. So how do we fix that? Let's look at the code. It seems like the field set element creating the border line, and the legend is the label of that section. So we need to bring our first name section into the field set. So let's cut it and then paste underneath legend element, and let's hit save again, and let's look at it from the browser. and hit refresh or F5. So now it fixed it, and then we can add the rest of the text boxes into this section. And let's hit save again and refresh the browser. Okay, so we finished this part, the text box part. Now we need to add the product list. The product list is a little bit more complex comparing to the text box, because it contains a list of items inside of the product, and we use the option element to do that. And as you notice that we have the first item disabled and the value is empty. This is because that we don't want to default our selection to the first item. We want to make sure the user do select one of the products. Now we can add the big text box problem description. And the problem description is a big text box that we use text area element, where there's a row attribute and a column attribute, and that's the height and the width of the text box. And finally, we need to add a submit button. And let's hit save and give a refresh on the browser. And okay, it seems like we get everything correct.